Welcome to Mac and Blue, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. Now let's join our hosts, Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky, aka Mac and Blue.
Thank you for joining us again. I'm Robert Johnson. He's JJ Levensky. And the man behind the steering wheel is Daryl Robinson, our producer. We didn't do that in time last week, so I apologize. Daryl is also going to fire the non-industry questions at you if he so chooses. What's going on, JJ?
What do you think of the sport coat?
Yeah. Okay. That being said, no, it's actually blue. Actually blue.
In other words, just like my face for radio, I have a tire for radio.
I have a radio head. So, yeah. You doing all right?
I'm doing great.
Crazy week.
Yeah. Isn't everyone here?
Yeah. It's beyond crazy.
Building Arizona, I'd say that's an understatement.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, we are very fortunate today to have two wonderful ladies as our guests. We have Tuyet Jacobson, who is the Senior Project Manager at McCarthy Building Companies. And we have Dawn Rogers, who is the Executive Director at Arizona Masonry Council. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Let's start with Tuyet. Tuyet, tell us a little bit about yourself, the stuff that you didn't tell us beforehand that's public knowledge or can be public knowledge.
Sure. I actually met Dawn at ASU.
Oh, I was going to ask if you knew each other previously.
We did.
Good, thank you.
Oh, go down that story. Yeah.
So honestly, I don't think I'd be here literally without Dawn, because I was at Mesa Community College, starting my undergrad, thinking I was going to be an architect, and my credits didn't work out. And Dawn comes strolling into Mesa and talks about the construction program at ASU, and for me, it was perfect. I mean, it was something that I think was nostalgic because I grew up with a father who was always very hands-on. So I ended up transferring to ASU, got my undergrad in construction management in 2015, and then ended up working for McCarthy. And right out of school, I did some solar projects, moved into our K-12 Education Business Services unit, and have really been in the ops side of things. So I've mostly been out in the field running projects with the fun teams that I get. So I love it.
Nice.
Awesome. Very good. How about you, Dawn? What can you tell us about you, at least that we maybe don't know about you already?
Well, I'm a native Arizonan. There's very few of us
you're
here.
one of the 1%ers.
I'm one of
Very
the
few.
Absolutely. More so in construction, which is nice to hear.
Yeah.
But native Arizonan. I have left here only for 3 years and lived in Washington, D.C. for 3 years. Exactly. The face that you gave, JJ, was perfect.
Yeah. For those of you that couldn't see that through the radio.
Yeah, just think about it.
A place to visit is wonderful. The place to live, it's a whole different ballgame. So it was a great experience. I worked for the National Association of Home Builders out there for 3 years. It's a great experience. I started the Concrete Home Building Council. And then I was homesick and I was ready to come home. So I flew back and came back to Arizona and haven't left since.
Amazing. So the cold was a shock.
Cold was nothing. The humidity was miserable.
Yeah, you and I know a little bit about humidity coming from Texas. Yeah, it's nasty. And you know nothing about humidity.
What are you talking about?
Humidity.
I came from an area where it was 100 degrees and 90% humidity in the summer and 20 below zero in the winter.
Yeah, now see, but you being a native understand this probably better than the rest of it. It gets 40 degrees here. It's freezing.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, you're wearing a jacket, a parka, and you know,
unless
you're on a job site that allows shorts, and then everybody will wear shorts. It's ridiculous.
That's true. But you can put a lot of clothes on for that cold.
Yes, that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That
totally
is
different
absolutely
in the
true.
summer. So yes.
Okay, let's jump into this. Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Okay. The obvious reason that we brought you here is that you are women in construction. and we talk building in Arizona. And so I'm going to use one of the questions that you actually put out there, or one of the statements, and ask this to both of you. We'll start with you first.
Okay.
Um, why do you believe that the industry benefits to have more women involved?
So I think it took me a while to really figure this out because people always say, well, it's better to have different perspectives. And it is. I think the more that I get to work with teams, and I've had very few opportunities to work with a lot of female partners on my projects. But when I do get to work with them, you just see there's a different way that we attack challenges.
Absolutely.
And that you don't get in a room just full of males. You tend to just jump right into the problem. And I know obviously this doesn't apply to everybody, but for the most part, I think women tend to really dial into the detail. They want to dig for what the root of the problem is. They want to reach out to the right people, the expertise, and really try to figure it out and get all the people in the room to make that decision. I think that's very unique, and I love that about the women I get to work with.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. Dawn?
I concur completely, but I think multitaskers,
Oh,
women
yeah.
tackle
These are
that.
things I wrote down. I mean, I'm so glad I was on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things. Being a multitasker, that women bring that to the table all day
Mhm.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Talk about the one I want to hear most about was the advocacy that you guys have found locally, because I think a lot of our audience would love to know, both males and females, about what's out there. And one of the main reasons I know I reached out to you, Don, was because you're so involved in the different advocacy groups. And if you could just spend some time, and then I think it back channels perfectly with your relationship with Tweet about how that started, what's working, what isn't working. I mean, we could probably spend an hour on that alone. But if you could just dive into that a little bit, because our audience is dying for that information.
Absolutely. And you're looking at advocacy like support systems. Is that
Well, like
kind of what
the
you're asking?
AWIC and those kind of
Perfect.
things.
Yes.
To go down that path for everyone.
Absolutely. So, like Tweet said, I was at ASU for a short period at the Del Webb School of Construction Management, and there were a couple programs that helped keep the recruitment and retention. And basically, it's bringing a mentorship program together, and it was a scholarship on top of it because as a freshman, you come in, you don't really know what you're doing, right? You're trying to figure out, is this what I want? Is this something that actually looks like me? And then you go into a classroom, and it's all men, dominated by all white males, majority of these students.
No, very true.
And you walk in there and you're going, what am I doing here? So these programs, we had Advancing Women in Construction, which is the AWIC program. And we would take a senior, junior or senior, and mentor a freshman or sophomore with those juniors. And we'd pair them up because they have had an internship, and they would also get some scholarship money. In addition to that, we would have an industry woman be a mentor as well to that partnership. In conjunction with the AWIC, we also did Advancing Minorities in Construction. And as I always said with the women, I'm like, double dip, go get them all, because to have that diversity and to learn to meet all those different people, and it's more money, right? So so it was just kind of, you find your support system, and you knew if you had the questions, a lot of time as a freshman, you didn't want to ask an industry person, right? Is this really for me? Is this something I want to do? You would be more comfortable asking somebody that you saw in class next to you
Sure.
and say, hey, and not even an industry question. It's like, what if I miss this assignment? What is this teacher saying? What is this? Very like-minded people. And it forced you to become part of each other. And I think that program to me was a huge, I mean, it, it, it goes ebbs and flows like
Right.
all groups, right? And we kind of taken that program and I was just telling Tweet, and yesterday we were at a high school and they're saying, okay, let's put a group of women together and have them come talk to. We have 200 women that are trying to figure out, where do we go? And they asked for 10 to 12 women in the construction industry, AEC, so the architecture, engineering, construction. So we're bringing women of all different levels, and we're talking about empowering yourself through careers and how you get there, and that you can do these kind of things and start when they're young. So this is freshmen through seniors. They don't know,
No.
right? They have no idea. All they hear is college, 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 or maybe not even that as a freshman, right? So they don't really know where they're going or what's going to happen. And I think that's talking to them early and seeing. So when I have Tweet come to that empowering women, wow, I kind of look like her. I'm like her.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Or my story is like hers.
Much more
I can make
relatable.
that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's flip it back over to you, Tweet. Did you go right down that path that she just
I
described?
did. So Dawn, she's being super humble, but Dawn was a big part of AWIC when we were there. I know the group of girls that I grew up with in the program, we were really involved, and Dawn was the biggest, like, she was the foundation of that. And she's absolutely right in that it that is what advocacy is, is being the example for the other female in the program who are newer and they don't quite know. Some of them are undecided, some of them are, civil, thinking they're going to transfer, and they see the excitement of the other female in the room, and it's fun, like, it's not just competition, it's about opportunity. And the greatest thing that I think AWIC provide for me and got me where I am today is the women in the industry that were so interested in being involved with AWIC. It was so, I mean, it was such a win-win relationship situation that you just got that excitement and engagement. I know one of the women who was involved, she actually brought me onto McCarthy. She was a big part of that, Andrea Ramos. I mean, is still involved with AWIC and, advocating for women in the industry, and I think that's huge.
Coming right out and going to McCarthy is impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is impressive.
So let's peel that back. McCarthy, we all know, very large firm representing the GC market. But are we seeing the same opportunities back to the A&E market of the architecture engineering? Dawn, can you speak to that at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They are waiting at the door for these students
Okay.
and readily available to get them. The engineering department is a little bit different. It's a little bit tougher, especially for some of the schools here. The universities here, I think NAU engineering does a better push of the engineering students, and so does U of A. ASU's engineering program, they don't get the industry in as well.
But their construction management does.
The construction management absolutely does. The industry
Okay.
is sitting right there waiting for them. Absolutely. And the architecture community, they're right there in the architecture schools, which is nice.
So then, are you finding that in the A&E part, are you starting to reach out further across state lines then, or not? Or doesn't it matter?
Actually, a lot of the students go across state lines because of the companies are so large.
True.
So, and that's kind of always my little spiel is if you want to travel the world, get into construction.
Yeah.
You could see the
good
world. If
point.
there's construction anywhere, you can go see the world. We don't really go across. Las Vegas is a big one, is a big overlapping because of Penta.
Mhm.
Jeff Arrett was a huge advocate of the ASU construction manager. He graduated from there, did a huge scholarship. He actually would follow his students through. I think I had like great stories with those kids. He would follow them, give them a scholarship for all 4 years and have them work when they would come back during the
Impressive.
summer. Huge.
What's the attendance like? What's percentage of attendance in your classes? How many other women were in the classes with you, Tweet?
I would say if I had a class of, I don't know, 25, 30, it'd probably be 3, maybe 4 women.
Well, that is about what the industry is showing, and all going into construction management, obviously.
Some of them were actually construction engineering and civil engineering because
Gotcha.
those were all part of the Fulton program, and Del Webb was underneath Fulton. So,
Sure.
That makes sense.
mhm.
If they had a personality, they didn't last in civil engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, for all the civil
Sorry.
engineers
Yeah.
listening.
You're welcome.
Welcome,
You're
civil engineers. Yes.
It's
Oh.
coming out.
They
Well,
just
that's my
they're not
recruiting.
listening
That was
anymore.
my
So let's go.
recruiting.
Let's go
I
on.
remember.
What,
Yeah.
what was about that NDA that we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier?
exactly.
So what's cool is you're now this many years past that. Do you see it has it gotten dramatically better? Because now you're on the other end of the spectrum, looking back in and acting as a mentor. Tweet. What are you trying to do now as a mentor to mitigate the gap that you saw when you were there? Can you speak to that?
Well, I think too, like a program like AWIC specifically, I remember, since I've been removed from ASU, it's also gone through its ebbs and flows. Like Don said, I think even when COVID happened, the thing is the industry just boomed and there were so many kids getting internships. So they were more focused on class and their internship and not so much on extracurricular. But lately I see that the program is really doing a lot. The AWIC is they're putting themselves out there, they're getting involved, and I love that. But did I answer your question?
Well, not really, but I still
Okay.
like your information though. So don't
Okay.
get me wrong. I was just trying to say, like, because how many years has it been since you were?
7 years.
Okay, so 7.
Mhm.
Think of when 7 years ago, how you were looking up, right?
Right.
And now 7 years later, you're looking down and pulling these other ladies with you.
Mhm.
What I was asking is what are you doing differently now to pull them on the gaps that you saw when you were looking up? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's kind of a loaded question. I'm asking, like, all right, Dawn and Tweet, where's AWIC and the other advocacy groups? What are they seeing as those gaps, and what are we doing collectively, and what can we do collectively, male, female, and every other label out there, for the women in diversity in construction? So it's kind of a 2-part question.
Right.
Or go ahead, Dawn.
And I think what's interesting is the experience. So she's been at McCarthy for all 7 of those years,
Right.
right? But she knows many of the students. And what I love about what I did in the previous is now I see all my students out and they all have these positions and the stories because they've changed. Not all of them were as successful as Tweet and stayed at the same company for all those years. Some of them have gone to different contracting, and there's a reason for it. And there's a reason because you have to find your fit and you have to find your culture. And to me, I think what we've helped with, and I always tell this everybody who comes and asks, go talk to 3 other people that have ever worked there. Think of the connections that we have. I mean, LinkedIn, perfect example. Go see who ever worked there before. Go ask them a few questions that mean something to you. It may have not have worked for them, but that culture may work for you for a reason. And so to me, I think that's what we help with the industry, if just to answer questions, because we've been there and there's people that have been there. If I don't know it, guess what? I know somebody who does, or I know where to go find the answer for this. And to me, I think we all need to be together and be resources for each other as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be my biggest.
So
One thing I was going to think of, like, personally, so full disclosure, everyone knows, I own a construction company, commercial. We're big enough, but we're also small enough that I don't have internal, I don't have a HR department like McCarthy does that is recruiting the Tweets of the world. So I'm still word of mouth or headhunter type stuff. I rarely get headhunters to give me women or diversity resumes. So to me, that's a gap. And that's kind of what I was getting at is, can I, from your perspective, what is our industry, my industry, what are we doing right and wrong in that capacity? So if you could spend a little time talking about that.
Do you do internships?
No.
Yeah.
Internships are huge.
Yeah.
It's always word of mouth. If it's bad, 100 people hear about it, right?
Right.
If it's good, 3 will hear about it. So it's tough if you're not doing the internships and people haven't had that experience and you haven't had that turnover, which is good.
Yeah.
But the word's not getting out unless somebody's out there doing stuff.
But-
if you have somebody
No, that's fine. I apologize for interrupting, but
That's all right.
how does we're a subcontractor, specialty subcontractor, and we would certainly be open to internships. Speaking for JJ, how do we get the good intern to be interested in the little guy, as opposed to everybody sees the McCarthys, the Big D's, all these people that are much larger? That's where, it's like, oh, an internship. Yeah, you see it all the time. How do we get them?
You got to be there.
Oh, yeah.
You got to show up at some of these events, these
Right.
advocacies. ASU is a tough place because everybody's here in town next to ASU and Del Webb. There's every big contractor's there. NAU, it's a little harder to get to. Not every contractor's at the table, but they have some really good students up there. Be there.
Yeah. So
Tell them your story.
That's a great point right there, is that in order to, I think that applies to a lot of that's what we can do. We're not putting ourselves in that position. Now,
Duly noted.
yeah, well, no, shame on you. So I'm gonna throw the old guy generational thing at you because I know you come up again. You're already grinning. So I'm an old guy in construction. Old guys in construction. I'm not speaking for myself. I'm going to speak for every old guy in construction that you've ever sat in a job shack with. Okay. Well, not
Job
every one
shack.
of them. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or an office.
Oh,
Yeah,
cousin.
job
You don't
shack.
know
Yeah, we
all
won't-
that
we
we've
won't-
ever met.
Yeah, we're not going to include cousin Eddie here.
Yeah, exactly. I come from a generation that there's no place for women in construction. It's a man's job. That's not the way that I feel or ever felt. Do you find that today's generation is much more open to women in construction and accepting women in construction? And what kind of things, what have you faced with the old guard? Tweet.
I mean, I think in general, it just depends on where you go, honestly. Just speaking on experience, the internships that I've held previously before I graduated and went full time, it's just the culture of the company. A company like McCarthy is very much they really do promote women in construction and diversity and inclusion and talk about, what can we do to be better.
Mhm.
But some companies just aren't there. So I think it just depends on where you go. And really I think as far as you asked what have in my experience
Mhm.
the challenges that I've faced,
Mhm.
definitely
Is it
I've seen
often?
it. I think it's in your head. Like when I was younger and
You expected it.
in some ways, you're right. So when you're younger and you're very green and you're a female, and you're in the trailer, and if a trade guy comes in, a foreman comes in and asks a question to your male intern, right away you're like offended, right?
Mhm.
But I just think it's in your own head. Like you have to get out of the way. You have to get out of your own way and really advocate for yourself and just prove to them that you can do the same job, if not better. And who cares what the old men have to say? If they don't think you're worth it, then
Boom.
whatever.
Just get out of the way.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Just
Robert's
bulldoze
wife
them
and kids
over.
have been telling him
That's
that
right.
for years.
Get out of the way. Okay, speaking of getting
They're
out of the way.
probably used to it then.
Yeah, they are. Let's jump out here for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
The way we construct is changing. Technology, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, manufacturing, off-site construction, high-velocity construction. These aren't things you would typically associate with construction. They are at Mac Prefab. The way we construct has changed. Welcome to high-velocity construction. Welcome to Mac Prefab. Build with strength. Sustain with steel.
All right. Now, thank you, Tweet, for sharing that. Now, listen, we all know that there's the unsaid things here of job, the trailer, the old guard, new guard, women. Now, this is just me. This is the way I've always looked at it. And this is what I see now. If you're capable and you're knowledgeable and you're qualified, we don't care what you are.
Right.
And I think that is a big part of it. Now, you made a face. Do you agree?
I
Dawn?
do.
Do you?
I do. I actually, I've been in the industry for almost 26 years
Okay,
now.
so you've seen
Little
the good.
different.
You've seen the good and the bad. If there's really
Oh, here I
been
thought
bad,
she was
but yeah.
26 years old, but that's
I
pretty
appreciate
good.
it. I started as a baby. Absolutely.
Mhm,
And I've had that.
mhm.
And I started in concrete, all the C9s. I ran their apprenticeship program.
Yeah, which is a tough one.
Tough,
It's
tough group.
very rough trade. Yeah.
And being young, I've been called honey. And there's
Oh.
only so many times you can take that.
Yeah.
Almost jumped the table a couple times.
Ooh.
Right? Right.
Now we're into construction.
Right. But those were the back in the days where you're green.
Yeah.
And intimidated. And you grow into that. And like you said, those are the people that you just go, they're never going to change.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's, there's some in the industry that you just know that they're not going to change that way. And you love them for that. And you hate them for it, right? At the
Right,
same
right.
point. But I have respect for a lot of those older people for where they've come from.
Sure.
And I get it. But there's some that there's no reason they should ever be there.
Yeah,
be
I
saying things
agree.
like that.
And the construction world's tough on the green anay. Male, female, whoever it is.
Absolutely.
You show up on a job. I mean, how many of you ever were sent for, a 2x4 stretcher or, any of those things? I was and went and got
Yeah,
it several times.
go get the muffler belt and the
Yeah,
blinker
all that
fluid and the
stuff.
board stretcher, right?
That's kind of comes with the territory.
Tweets over here laughing like, I remember those.
Yeah, exactly. There was something else that I saw here that I wanted to ask of you. What are the most important lessons learned? Let's start with you, Tweet.
I think it kind of goes into what you were just saying, right?
Mhm.
Male or female, if you're green, you're still intimidated.
Mhm.
I think the biggest lesson is we're all the same. We, as women, we need to stop getting in our own heads and preventing ourselves from moving forward by providing the typical excuses, right?
Mhm.
Because we're going to keep progressing as an industry. We've gotten so much better, and I'm so grateful to work at McCarthy because they're so understanding. Because I have 2 little kids,
Mhm.
and I never, anytime I'm having a bad day, I always in the back of my head, it's because of this, it's because of this. But you know what? It's like everyone has their own challenges, whether or not their partner works, whether or not, their partner is stay-at-home parent.
Mhm.
But I think you just have to get out of your own head. And at the end of the day, everyone's too busy to really let that bog you down. So I think maybe that's my words of wisdom in the 7 years that I've been in this industry. But
Yeah, boys, girls.
I haven't. My oldest is a boy.
Mhm.
He's 3.5, and my youngest will be 2. She's a girl. In 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You do have little ones.
yeah, it's fun.
There's the prime right there.
Yeah.
So we've only been focused on what I call the general contracting conversation. I'm noticing on our projects that we have or a lot more women in the trades.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, we all know our labor shortage here in the valley, and especially with all the work that keeps popping up on all of our radars day after day after day. Seems like every other day another $1 billion projects coming to the valley. Dawn, you get to see all this through your lens a lot. How much are we focusing, meaning the industry and especially the advocacy groups? How much are we targeting that now versus just going to the general contractors?
Eh, Huge, huge. And I think the school counselors are finally getting it that this college debt is a real thing and that these trade schools are out there, that they're making money and they have no debt at the end. And they're actually learning a skill, becoming a journeyman, journeywoman, which it's coming back, right?
Mhm.
I think a lot of students, like I was at a high school yesterday, they don't even know what that means. Apprenticeship or journeyman, they don't know what that meant. And they're starting to again, because I think at the state level, they're supporting it. We're having programs in the schools. More and more programs are coming forward. So I think that the word is getting out.
Mhm.
There's more programs. Build Arizona, Build Your Future Arizona
Mhm.
is one of those programs that all the different trades, a lot of the subcontractors have come forward. And there's programs, no debt. Come out debt free and you have a
Mhm.
skill that is a career. And I think that goes far.
So
far way.
if we go back to Tweet's early days, are we seeing the community college or the EVITs are they focusing more on the programs and even more specifically for women and diversity?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think because they're federally funded too, state and federally funded. There you go. More dollars, the more diversity. So there's a lot more. And as you go to some of these schools, I think you get the kids excited. We go in as a masonry group. I have a full-time employee. All he does is go to high schools and he does hands-on. And some of these women are amazing. They just lay to the line and they get a whole wall of masonry laid out.
Detail oriented.
Detail oriented,
Yes.
beautiful walls,
Spot on.
beautiful walls these girls have.
Spot on. So you bring
That's
up
right.
this school, the same school that I've been into a few times, and I don't mind. It's in Australia Falls High School, Buckeye Unified High School District. I had a gentleman that when I went the very first time said to me that educators got it wrong for so many years, that for years and years it was college, 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 college. And he said, unfortunately, we won. And we got it. We turned that tide to where people were going to college, and now we don't have tradespeople.
Mhm.
This particular school and others, there's another one that I'm getting involved with, they are creating programs for the students that do not want to go to college teaching them how to balance checkbooks and interview, do things like that it doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, excellent stuff. And I'm going to jump on this real quick just because it ties in very well, because I didn't realize this and I'm really excited. I emailed you about it yesterday, Tweet. Cactus.
Mhm.
I had no idea. You know what cactus is?
Yeah,
Not the little sticky thing.
Oh, actually, I do, but I was just playing along.
I think that is the coolest thing to talk about, getting them even younger.
Right.
So tell us about Cactus real quick.
Yeah. So Cactus, they're actually rebranding. So they're going to soon transition to what's called Trade Up. So, but Cactus, it stands for Careers in Architecture and Construction Trades and Uplifting Students.
Mhm.
Right. So what it is it's kind of like the ACE mentorship, where the ACE mentorship goes to the high school level. Cactus goes to the middle school level. So Cactus was, I think,
That's amazing.
it is.
Yeah.
Because kids at that age, they don't know that exists. And sometimes parents don't know if they want their kids to know that it exists,
Yeah,
right?
you want to work with your hands, Billy?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Like your dad does that. Are you
Yeah.
sure?
And look at how he turned out. I wasn't pointing at Robert.
Well, you looked at me when you said it. Wow. Okay. Shot across the bow.
We love you.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
But it's great. I think they're in their 4th year. So I'm on the board of Cactus, and we've been doing basically a program during the semester where we bring it. I guess every week is a a type of trade that we introduce them to. So whether it's roofing, electrical, framing, drywall,
Mhm.
masonry,
Yes,
right?
very
You
good.
had to get the plug for
Yes.
Dawn.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Dawn's plug. Yeah.
But we get to basically utilize our partners in the industry, bring them in, and they can talk to the students and say, "Hey, this is where I came from. Like this exists. It's a career." And so it's just getting them excited. It's an after school program too. So a lot of
Oh,
these
interesting.
kids, they don't have anything else to do. It's great that they're even able to be introduced to something like this. But honestly, it's just introducing them to the industry, and then hopefully, as they move up to the high school level, then they get connected with ACE. And
How
so,
many girls are in the class?
last semester when I participated, there actually weren't any girls, and it was a really small class. I think because of COVID,
Sure.
it was still impacted. We had to kind of push on the brakes for a little bit, but hopefully, we get more girls.
We need to change that.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, JJ.
Oh,
You had something great?
I wouldn't say great. Remember, it's coming out of my mouth.
Okay.
I thought one of the most intriguing things that we did in like the pre-work for this podcast was this question: can you still be feminine and be in construction?
Oh, see, my wife and I got in a conversation this past weekend, and I'm so apprehensive. I said, what can I say and not say? I don't want to come off as being this bad guy. And when I saw your questions, I'm like, oh, pulled the Band-Aid off of that.
That was your
great.
question,
But there
right?
are things, and that's but there are traits that women have that
Right.
make them better suited for some things than men.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Well, so I pose it again. Dawn, let's start with you. Can you still be feminine and be in construction?
Absolutely. Never lose that femininity.
Yeah.
That's always been, I get that question all the time.
Right.
Absolutely. Don't lose that. You're going to have to grow some thick skin. Not everybody's going to make it in construction industry. Not every woman's going to make it. It's a man's world out there.
Mhm.
And we know that. And not everybody's going to make it. But don't ever lose that. And that's what I've told everybody. And if you're not learning every day, something's wrong.
yeah, true.
Mhm.
Ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we do well, but men do as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
you're
why
right.
would you lose that? Is that going to change the way you work? Is that going to change anything that you're doing or what you're learning?
Right.
I think that's a lot of people ask that question, and then they also ask. They get out of school and they're like, "Am I allowed to ask questions?"
Oh, of course.
So are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
The-
If you can't ask a question,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're done.
You're in the
Right.
wrong place.
You are done.
Yes.
And if somebody turns around and won't answer a question,
Right.
never talk to that person.
Yeah.
Turn
Yeah.
around and find the next person, because if they're done trying to teach,
Mm-hmm.
where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a big deal in this industry, and very opening, very open.
What about you, Tweet?
Well, and like what you were saying is that's the one piece of advice I always give. And like, when I go to an ASU event or whatever, or I'm in an interview with someone at ASU, they'll always ask, like, what's a piece of advice you'd have for me? I'd say never stop asking questions, because when you are that young, you can get away with it. But if
Great
you
point.
pretend like you know everything when you're young, and as you grow in your career and you want to ask questions, now it gets hard, right? So, but I mean, as far as being feminine, like, why not? I think when I was younger, in my career, I was more scared to be feminine. Like, I was, you know, but I don't know. I'm not a super like girly girl in general,
Mhm.
but why not? Like, as long as it doesn't distract from your job, you know?
Correct. I told my daughters, I have 2 daughters, and I told them early on in their life that if they would understand one thing in life, they would be perfect, and that's that men are pigs.
Oh,
And they were like, they look at me funny. I said, "If you'll get it someday. Men are pigs. If you'll understand that now, it taints everything." And so, yeah, yeah, you
I
can
love it.
certainly still do
I
that.
play off of that all the time at my job sites. I mean, like, we just make fun of like how some of my male coworkers are disgusting, and like,
Yeah. No,
it's a good thing we're in the trailer.
Men
You
are
should come to
pigs.
my office. All my women are the ones that are rude.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Whatever.
There you go.
Yeah. They're
right.
listening too.
Sounds like a good
Yeah.
Of
time.
course they are.
Yeah.
They know I love them,
Yeah.
but they rule the home
roost.
front too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the question this kind of gets a little deep, but just bear with me here. So Tweet, you talked about how your father was kind of an inspiration, right?
Yes.
You said hands-on, all those
Mhm.
kind of things. And I look at the generational influence of construction, everyone that went into it. You can go back and look at even ethnicity, how are the early people to America were predominantly the, Germans and certain parts of Europe that were more trades driven, right? And so then it became, you always hear the story about like the Irish and Italian New York firefighters, almost the same thing that's happened systematically in construction. What I'm curious to approach here is, has technology and that construction has become so IT specific, has that really mitigated the whole gender thing in construction? And if so, how? In other words, I look at Tweet's generation versus when I went to construction management school 8 million years ago.
Mhm.
I guarantee you, just about everyone in my program, we had a father, an uncle, a brother, something that we grew up in the trades and we went to construction management school. Your story tells me different. And I'm wondering if we as an industry, or how you guys see it as, again, through the women in advocacy programs, how can we leverage the technology piece and the inspiration of what construction stands for instead of just working with your hands? So how does that
I-
look through what you are doing behind the scenes, Dawn?
I think that helps our industry when we show what's new in the
Correct.
technology. We're slow to change. You guys know construction is probably the slowest
Oh,
to
we're
change.
Petrified.
we're horrible.
Petrified of change.
Absolutely. So to be able to, I don't know if you guys have seen the exoskeleton that's out.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Hilti's thing.
Actually, it's from a different Fracco is a different one
I
that
have not seen
did it for the
Fracco.
military, and it
Oh,
goes
yes,
for
I have.
the
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they actually have made it for the masonry industry. And so we're going to bring it to our high schools because it's technology.
Yeah, you'll
We've come
blow
a
their
different
mind.
level,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And we have the mule that helps lay the block. It's a whole different technology. That's going to help in the recruiting for those kids that they grew up with a phone in their hand or a
Right.
tablet in their hand.
Who's programming the 3D printer?
Exactly. And so I think that has changed a lot because of our technology, that I think we can get better, different, the diversity. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree that that has brought us to a whole different level. But at the same time, think of the tradesmen that are still with us. I have a lot of people. You have all those different systems where you drawings on. They want to have that paper still, right?
There's a lot of
Ha-
paper
They
people.
love
so,
the
yeah.
paper, especially my subs. I mean, that's a big deal to have that paper to make that transition, because there's a big gap. We have a big generation gap that we missed, right? During
Mhm.
our big down. We don't
Mhm.
talk about those days, but
Yep.
that big generation gap,
Mhm.
these guys don't really like those tablets. They would love to have the BlackBerry or the flip phone still,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But those drawings, some are turning and they're excited
Mhm.
and they will accept it.
Yeah.
But not all of them. Not all of them. I'm sure you see a lot of your tradespeople going,
I do.
where are the drawings? Where's the new drawing?
I do. But the younger generation loves to teach them too. And you
Oh,
see
that
that
gives you a little
connection.
power
Makes it a
there.
little
Oh,
It
my
does.
goodness.
Yeah, I'm better than you.
Yeah, that is.
Oh,
Oh, that is solid. Okay,
Nice.
let's jump out for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Now, I'm not that technical guy. He's that technical guy
That won't accept it or will?
that, oh, he will. He
Okay.
will.
Oh,
So,
no, I'm
yeah, he's full-blown tech. You'll understand. You'll learn as you listen. There's a smart and a dumb one here, okay? He's a smart one. I'm the
Got
dumb
it.
one, but it works, okay? So the technical aspect of it that you've touched on, that's a place that women can excel, I believe, and bring some power to that piece. I don't know. How about you, Mr. Tech Guy? What do you think about that?
Oh, I see it. I see it firsthand in who we work with right now. And I'll bring up one word that I see consistently where the women are crushing the men. It's called patience. Not even close.
There are so many that I wrote down. I'm not going to mention.
But-
It's just it goes on and on and on where women beat men out in this.
But in the leveraging of technology, the patience that women I think that's going to be the turning point of where we're going. And I could spend a whole program just on talking about how I think,
You're Darlene.
yeah, the technology just in our industry, and how, back to what I was kind of prepping you for, Dawn, about, the billions and billions that just keep coming to the valley. If we don't leverage that, whether this isn't a woman conversation, this is an industry paradigm conversation.
Mhm.
But again, with more women coming in, the diversity and the mindset that they have around the patience and all the soft skills that men typically come out of the womb not having, that's what we desperately need. So I'm looking for, but I'm also asking you guys questions of, let's start, in the second or in the last trimester of this podcast, where can we go in the future? Like, I'm sure you guys have some ideas. So let's put on the utopian dream hat right now and go, where can we go? So Dawn, I'm sure you've had ideas of like, what can we do better? What groups need to do a better job? This is like our public announcement of, let's go get it done. So I'm giving you the mic and the monitor to go, all right, this is the ask.
All right.
Not to put you on the spot, but
Right.
we
I
need
think
more Masons.
We need more Masons. Absolutely. Tell our story better. That is one thing we just don't do well. We have amazing people in this industry. We do amazing things. You leave a project and that project will outlive you, most of these people. And you can come back and say, that's what we did. We built that. We don't tell our story well enough of what's there. Everybody thinks of construction and they think dirty, grimy. What are they doing? Right?
Right.
There's so much more to it, and telling the story. So this cactus, the AWICS, the community colleges, the apprenticeship programs, we just need to infiltrate all these programs and get the people there. I mean, I made one call yesterday to get 12 women to one high school. Happened like that. They're ready to go. We need more of that. We need the ability to say, go and tell these kids, have that one-on-one talk, let them ask these questions because they're curious, but it's intimidating for them to come up and talk to somebody like us or somebody like yourself. You go into a high school, they're going to look at you. You're an old guy, right? They're going to go, I have nothing in common. I have nothing to say to him. You show them something in technology and ask them, show me what you think of this. Have them show you something. Just like Tuyet said, let them show you something how to do. Get them excited about our industry like we're all excited about it. That's why we're talking about it.
Correct.
Tell our story better and get the word out there. I think that's the biggest thing I can say. I mean, there is getting out and telling our story. We just don't do it well enough.
Yeah, I agree. I apologize to Daryl. Daryl, do you want to ask your question? You want me to ask your question? This came up earlier. You mentioned this, and we just want to touch on it. you use the word journeyman or journeywoman. What is that, JJ? What is a journeyman?
To me, it's defined as someone that's on the journey to the master of whatever they're trying to do. The master hood, if that's even a word.
Yeah, sure.
The mastery of a skill, a trait.
Right. So Arizona's not a big union state.
Right.
Apprenticeship, which is in the trades, used to be that's where you would go and you'd learn. They have classes that you could go into. And as an apprentice, you were the green one, air quotes for those who can't see. And a journeyman is somebody that is an experienced person. They know it all. They're a journeyman. They've got it mastered. I apologize to Daryl. He wrote that down for me to ask that question. Daryl brings up the questions from the things that we say that the lay people out in the field don't know. So, yeah. So
that's a graduate of a program.
There you go.
They graduate with the master skill of whatever that program is.
Yeah,
That's excellent. We have a 3-year program for Masonry. I think the electricians have a 5-year program. So after that 5 years, they graduate as a journeyman and they have a card.
I'm so glad you
journeyman
explained it.
card, and they.
Yeah, much better.
And can they use that card in other states, or does it state to state? What is that like?
It is a national. It's federally certified. So it's wherever you go in the U.S., you stand behind that, and you have so many hours in the field. They call it on-the-job training, and in the classroom. So there's so many hours that you have to complete that the federal and state have certified you, and that's when you get your journeyman's card. So you can go anywhere in the U.S. with that.
And each step up is more pay.
More pay.
So, yeah. Great question, Daryl. And I do apologize.
That is.
So, pet peeves. Biggest pet peeve about women. Yeah, she put this down, so you probably got some. Yeah. Wait a second.
Daryl.
Daryl, you are bringing it. Is money one of the pet peeves? Do you see large disparity? Did you say money?
Say money or honey?
Money.
He said honey.
He said honey.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said money.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
Daryl, that's even better. I thought you said money. This is an old guy hearing here.
How about both of them? Money and
Both of
honey.
them.
Yeah, honey is the pet peeve. I would agree. Never, ever say honey. Or my girls. Yeah, anyway.
Yes, sweetie.
Oh, sweetie.
But my biggest pet peeve, and Tuyet and I have talked about this, with women in the industry, going against each other. We need to be our own support.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen it way too often that they feel like they have to compete with each other. And it's not everywhere. And my big thing, one of the things I learned was you find your tribe, and that is your team.
Yeah,
that's your people that you can go to and you trust. And I told Tuyet this the other day. The older I get, the smaller my tribe gets. But you learn.
That's true.
You figure it out, right?
No, that is true.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's true in life. It's true with your friends and your close friends. And it's the same in this industry. And so I think that is my biggest pet peeve, is that we just don't, us women need to pull each other up and support each other and be open and say, ask me those questions, right? I mean, you could see if a woman's going to have a breakdown and going to strangle somebody, right? Grab them, pull them aside. Let's get out of this situation, right? More women go out against and are fighting each other. And to me, we got to have more camaraderie within this. It's ridiculous when I see it.
I get it. Tuyet, what's your spin on that?
Well, it's funny because it's not a pet peeve for me necessarily, but you did it earlier. You said something like, I don't want to offend you, or
Thank you. No, thank you.
and like it that really is not, it doesn't rub me the wrong way, but sometimes I'm like, okay, just get on with what you're gonna say, because I hear that a lot.
It's
And
the feeling uncomfortable, the feeling the need to explain yourself. Explain
right.
your uncomfortableness.
yeah. And
Man,
I get it.
that's awesome.
I
That
get
really
it.
is awesome.
That was really good.
No, that is really
I feel
good.
like we can wrap this up right now.
Yeah,
we just
we
went
can
to a
talk.
whole nother
We can
level.
talk another hour and do. I thank you, because that is something that I get said to me a lot.
And not sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe some women do get offended. So it's great that you're empathetic and you can recognize that and be politically correct. But I think a lot of women are like, yeah, we've heard it all.
Yeah.
We share a trailer, we share a bathroom with the men. So we're good.
So excellent, Daryl.
And I think the second part to that is is you have to, I think for women, men, whatever it is, you have to be okay with people being ignorant. I guess that's the word. You
Absolutely.
have to be okay with
Yes.
that. So when someone comes at you, when Robert said, for the older generation, they don't always think the same way as the new generation is thinking, but they have like an older person's mindset in construction, right? So if they say, something like, as Robert said, not to offend you, maybe you just like have to be open to saying, hey, well, here's how I feel about that. And I think to Don's point, people got to be willing to speak up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Daryl, where'd you put my walker? I mean, man, this has turned into
It's
like
part. It's
Robert,
part.
the
It's,
old guy.
hey,
Yeah.
it's right behind your quadfocals.
Yeah. The
man.
old guy. Yeah, it's great.
All right. What do you still love about construction?
The people. That's why I will never change industries. And I always tell stories that I have sat next to multimillionaires, had no idea who they were. And they're telling stories just like I'm having a conversation like we are now, until they tell me who they are. And especially when I was young and they tell me, I go, oh my God, what did I just say to this person? I know who he is, or I know who she is. And I would freak out. Now it's like everybody's out to help each other.
Mhm.
People think this is a rough group. It really isn't. I mean, it really is a good community of people. It's a small community here in Arizona. It may seem enormous because of all the work that's going on. It is really a small community. So watch out who you talk about or who you ever offend, right? Full
Right.
circle, it comes back. But I think it's about the people. There are way worse industries than we could be in.
Mhm.
Amazing.
But it is fun to build stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And to go back, even just curb and gutter is exciting, right?
Spoken like a true C&M person, right?
You do point stuff out, don't you?
Yeah.
You're driving some.
Right.
I'm an old ceiling grid guy, so if I walk
Oh.
into a Fry's or something, I got one eye closed. I'm making sure it's not,
course
you
you
do
are.
it, don't you?
Yes.
You see
Yep.
things and tell people,
Yeah.
I did that.
I can't tell you how many times they're like, JJ, please. Everywhere you're always looking at a restaurant, you're looking up going, wonder how they did that interstitial space so fast, or something like that. And they're like, what are you, a construction geek? I'm like, yeah, that's what we live for.
It
I was-
really is.
I was thinking
Absolutely.
back to your story earlier about, those legacy moments that all of us in construction have. And I was thinking, how cool would it be? I'm going down the air quotes again. Yeah, Daddy's really proud that he built that. Now it'd be, oh, cool. That's what Mommy built.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
I do think there's some really cool things to look forward to. Big time. Pet peeves we covered.
Oh,
What
no.
was it you just asked?
Well, we didn't go to tweet on like what still just gets you
Gets
so
you-
excited about construction.
I would say same. For the people who just really, really live for this and they appreciate the relationship aspect of it, the people are such a big part of it. From like my younger years in my career, being out there and building relationships with the foreman and them getting excited and wanting to teach you. It's like that moment that you're just like, yes, this is where I belong. Like, I love doing this no matter how hard some of the, like 4 days out of the week, it's tough, right? But you get that one day and you realize the people really bake it. And the older I get and the more projects I get to be involved in, then you see outside of just the project itself, then it's like your design team and how important it is to really help bring their vision to life. It's just all the people connect. It's like this puzzle, and to really figure that out and see the benefit that everyone has in that, I think that's the best part.
Yeah. Very, very, very good. How can people get a hold of you?
I would say
They have
LinkedIn.
questions? Yeah. Dawn,
Don't-
shaking your head no is not an acceptable. For anybody that would maybe have a question for something that they heard about today, or maybe one of these advocacy groups, how can they get a hold of you? You can always reach out to JJ and I, and we'll be glad to connect or pass on anything that we can for you guys. But is there something or some way that you'd like people to be able to get a hold of you?
I would say LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we'll
Okay.
put all the links
I was
with
gonna
Mac
say,
and
yeah.
Blue.
Yep.
So it's with both Tweet and
Perfect.
Dawn. And
Perfect.
do we have time, Daryl, for another question or not? The one I was going to ask was, okay, for both of you, we'll take one at a time. For any listener or watcher out there that either is a woman or, let's say it's a husband who's what he knows his wife wants, their girlfriend or whatever, spouse, partner, whatever, is dying to get into construction, or they have a daughter or whatever. What can they do starting right now as a woman? Give a couple steps or advice that they can do to get into construction as a female.
I'd love to talk to them.
There you go.
Perfect.
Let's talk to them. Let's connect them to the right person. I mean,
if you
between
see
Tuyet
Dawn's
and I,
face on all the milk cartons tomorrow, it's not the FBI, it's our recruitment policy.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
She wants to talk to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is reach out. I'd say go to a job site, but it's not that easy to go and just walk on a job site when you're not
Correct.
prepared with all the PPE. But one of the programs, one of the trades, we're more than happy. Talk to somebody about it.
And we can get any information, and somebody can reach out to us. We can get everything.
I think she brings up a really good point. This doesn't have to be this isn't a large, there's only one spot to go. Right?
Correct.
If someone knocks on my door, which they do all the time, mostly selling stuff, but a lot of times looking for advice, we give it, right? I can think of up to McCarthy's office, when people walk in and they're going to give advice. Think of every trade, every supplier, everyone that's related to construction. We're all giving advice right now. You know why? Because none of us can fulfill the needs already. So we're typically paying it forward. So if there was ever a time to holistically pay it forward, now is that time. Would you agree?
Absolutely, I would agree.
So I think it even goes deeper than that, Dawn, is they can literally ask anyone. I think the purpose of today's thing was to give everyone the inspiration to go, there are no barriers. The only barrier is your mindset against it. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sums
Do you
it
want to
up
add on
nicely.
anything?
No, I think she nailed it. I mean, we're such a small community of women that it's like if you came to me and you wanted a piece of advice, I would know exactly who or could get you that information if I couldn't give it to you. I mean, I've had one of my really good friends that is on the board of the ASU alumni program. She's got a female partner that works with her who just had a kid. I don't know her. I've never met her before, but she called me up and was like, hey, so-and-so gave me your number. And we just chatted for an hour. I gave her advice. So I would say, don't be afraid to just reach out.
Excellent.
We're, huge advocates. So
Man, we are going to have these ladies back for part 2 someday.
Yeah.
We this went by way too fast for us. I know it probably seems like 4 hours for you, but this really did
Especially with
go
us
great.
old curmudgeons.
Yeah, the old guy here. Yeah. What's your name again? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
with us today. JJ, I'll see you next time. Do you have something else you want to say?
No, I've always, it was funny because when we were planning out some of our guests, I think this came up as one of our highlighted ones. It was like, hey, we want to get this on the air right now because of the state of our, economy and environment in Phoenix. And it's, of course, I didn't know you Tweet, but I knew Dawn in the past. And so I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. So I just can't thank you enough. And yeah, let's keep this dialogue going.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Mac Prefab and Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky on LinkedIn and Instagram. And tune in live every first and third Thursday at 3 p.m. as we continue to introduce you to the people building Arizona. Walt Disney said, you can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make the dream a reality. Until next time, make it a great day.